Hey guys, I'm Ella, and this is the Samsung S22 Plus. So it's got a new and improved build, new cameras, and also a new generation of SoC that promises greater speed and efficiency, and best of all, it's still at the same price as the S21. So it certainly seems like this could be one of the best phones on the market that hits just the right balance between premium features and price. But there are also some concerns, such as the smaller battery with a pretty power-hungry SoC. So in this video, I will go through everything about this phone, its build, battery life, performance, software, and also the cameras, and hopefully this will give you a better idea of what you can expect from this phone. And let's just get started. Okay, so the S22's build and physical aspects are superb. There are quite a few upgrades over last gen, and it's definitely on par with the best phones out there. The S22 has a Gorilla Glass Victus Plus back, which has a very nice matte finish, and it's also pretty good at not tracking any fingerprints. I also really like how the camera bump on this phone doesn't stick out that much. It still wobbles a little bit when you put it down on a table, but it's definitely way less than the iPhone 13 Pro with its massive bump. Also, the 6.6-inch screen of the S22 Plus is only 1080p, so its pixel density isn't the best in class, but at a normal reading distance, I almost can't tell a difference with the iPhone side by side. On the bright side, the screen of the S22 Plus can go extremely bright, to a reported 1750 nits, which is much brighter than the iPhone and the regular S22. But I've never had an issue with screen visibility on both the S21 and the 13 Pro, even under bright sunlight. And so for most people, the increased peak brightness of the S22 Plus may not be all that beneficial. And it was also reported that the S22 screen refresh rate can go from 120Hz all the way down to 10Hz, but their support page has now been updated to say just 48Hz. I'm still not 100% sure what the actual lowest refresh rate of this phone is, but perhaps that's not the most important from a user's perspective, as we'll see later in the battery test. And other than that, the S22 doesn't really miss out on any typical flagship features, such as IP68 water and dust resistance, an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, and also nice sounding speakers. And while having all of these features, the S22 Plus is still surprisingly light. In fact, the regular S22 is 1 gram lighter than the plastic S21. And so I think the S22 Plus is actually a nice combo of price, size, and weight, one that Apple does not offer. And I do really prefer light phones because they're just easier to hold up when I'm lying down, and so it's just more practical. But to achieve this lightness, Samsung had to put a battery that is about 7% smaller in this than last gen, which is one of the supposed downgrades of these new devices. However, I think Samsung only did this because the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in this phone is actually quite a bit more efficient since it's using a new 4nm manufacturing process. And this efficiency does show in real life. So I did a battery life test. All of the phones have 100% battery health and matched screen brightness. And in my battery life test, when under lighter loads, such as scrolling on social media and also watching a video for 1 hour total, I calculated that the S22 Plus, while having a larger screen, actually used around 13% less energy than the S21. And this is calculated after compensating for the larger battery in the S22 Plus. So this means that if you primarily use your phone for social media or just watching videos, then the S22 series can actually last around 6% longer than its S21 counterparts, despite the smaller battery size. Which means that the S22 Plus here can also outlast the iPhone 13 Pro for these tasks, as it dropped only 7% in this 1 hour social media test, whereas the iPhone dropped 8%. But don't get me wrong here, the iPhone is still much more efficient since it has a 31% smaller battery than the S22 Plus. However, if you play a lot of heavy games or use apps that fully load up the SoC, then the story is a bit different. First of all, the new SoC is really fast. Despite the relatively small gains in CPU scores, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 has a lot more potential for gaming than the 888. In the Wildlife Extreme Stress Test, the S22 Plus averaged around 40% faster than the S21. And it isn't just about the larger number in benchmarks. The thermal issues that really held back the S21 for gaming are now largely alleviated too. S22. The S22 balances between heat and performance more intelligently. As you can see, the GPU clock decreases gradually as the phone heats up, whereas on the S21, the performance just kind of takes a nosedive once it gets hot. But this level of performance does come at a cost. So the S22 Plus drew around 11 watts under load as opposed to 9 watts on the S21, which means it eats up battery quite a bit faster. After 45 minutes of running benchmarks, the S22 Plus dropped 19%, whereas the S21 with a smaller battery only dropped 17%. And this extra power draw does make the phone hotter. The hottest spot on the S22 Plus's back reached around 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 2 degrees hotter than both the S21 and the iPhone. And it is pretty noticeable to the touch as well. So if you do a lot of gaming, then the S22 series is going to die faster than last gen, but at least the game will run smoother. However, the S22 is still no match for the iPhone. After the 45 minutes of benchmarking, the 13 Pro used only 15% of its much smaller battery, whereas the S22 Plus and S21 dropped 19 and 17% respectively. And the iPhone did this while scoring higher than both of them too. But all the hardware numbers don't tell the full story about this phone. The software plays a significant role in the user experience as well. And OneUI might just be my favorite operating system. It provides many functional benefits, like this Edge panel that I can access no matter what app I'm using. Right now, I put my most used apps there. The one-handed mode on Samsung is also very good, much better than it is on both stock Android and iOS, since it gives me the entire phone screen instead of just half of it. And there are also a few options that don't need unlock for the lock screen shortcut, and even more with unlock required. You can also have lock screen widgets that show things like the weather or today's schedule. Alright, and as for aesthetic customization, so you really have a lot of choice on Samsung because there's a large selection of really nice looking themes and always on display images that you can find in the Galaxy store. And of course, with Android 12, you can match the phone's colors to a wallpaper of your choice, but before doing so, you can remaster the image to make it look better, sharper, and more vibrant. I think this feature is really cool and I quite like it. And by the way, I will be making a customization video, basically what to do first on it. That will be coming soon, so stay tuned. But also on the new S22 series specifically, you can change any photo with a face to have the portrait effect. There are also quite a bit more camera modes in addition to just the photo and video. For example, this Pro mode, which lets you precisely adjust things like the ISO, the shutter speed, and white balance, just like on a real camera. And speaking of the camera, so the main upgrades for the S22 is that now the telephoto has 3 times optical zoom, just like on the iPhone 13 Pro, and also a 50 megapixel main camera. But the megapixel count doesn't really matter on phones. In fact, you cannot even take a 50 megapixel photo with the S22, even in the Pro mode. However, the 12 megapixel photo that the S22 does take is still clearly more resolving than the S21. With the S22, you can see the texture in the wall here, whereas it's more of just a blur on the S21. However, compared to the 12 megapixel sensor on the iPhone, it really isn't any more resolving. But I think the actual image quality is just as good as the iPhone's, and with a color grade applied to take away the difference in color, I almost cannot tell them apart. Actually, try to take a guess on which one's which and leave your guess in the comments down below. Now, as for the telephoto, so despite the lower resolution at 10 megapixels, the S22's is still a lot better than the one on the S21, since now the 3 times zoom is actually achieved optically. It does still fall behind the iPhone 13 Pro's telephoto lens, but to be fair, it's certainly a whole lot better than not having one at all in the case of the more comparably priced iPhone 13. And the ultra-wide and selfie camera on the S22 didn't improve from last gen, but they're still pretty decent. I am thinking about doing a more comprehensive camera test between the S22 and the iPhone 13 Pro, so let me know if that sounds interesting to you. Alright, and lastly, so Samsung has announced that it will be collaborating with TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat to enhance the in-app cameras in those apps. And with this, you'll be able to do fancy things like take portrait mode photos or have digital image stabilization directly from those apps. Now, those new features haven't arrived yet, and currently in apps like Instagram, if you take a photo or video using the in-app camera, it still suffers from much degraded quality, just like all other Android phones. Here's a photo and video taken by the Instagram app, and as you can see, it's not even close to the ones taken overtaken by the regular camera. I know this issue can be a deal breaker for a lot of people, so I'm really hoping that this collaboration will at least take a step towards eliminating this issue. So all in all, Samsung did not disappoint with this new release. The S22 has a very solid build with improved cameras while maintaining the same price and weight as before. The battery life of the S22 series is fine too, even longer than the S21 series if you primarily use your phone for things like checking emails or social media. So I do like this phone a lot, and if you're looking to get a new phone, the S22 series is definitely a solid choice. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you've liked it and found it helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel because I will be making a lot more videos about the S22. And here are my other social media platforms, so you can follow me on those if you would like to. And yeah, that's all that I have to say for this video. I hope to see you guys in another one of my videos. Bye! Oh, and also thank you for 100K.